What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast talking to MLB for Tuesday, June 5th. We've got 14 games to talk about, as we usually do, 14 or 15 on these Tuesday slates. Pretty much everyone in play except for the White Sox Twins doubleheader. Neither of those games will be on the main slate, so just keep that in mind, at least on DraftKings. Let's get into this. Get to Osmo.com. Check out all of our premium products with the MLB package. You get access to the ownership projections from Osmo and then his rankings from his own research. So you're getting the rankings from one of the best players in the industry. Plus, we have a bunch of other free content with me, Josh, Chris, and we've got a pretty good thing going on at Osmo.com, so go check that out. Let's get into this 14-game slate. We'll start with LA and Pittsburgh. Pitching is very top-heavy, so including one guy from this game, Ross Stripling. He's been really good as a starter. The matchup isn't all that great, but against the Pirates, they've got some good lefties in there, Bell and Dickerson, Moran, Polanco. The middle of that lineup is going to be tough for him, but I can't really argue against using him. He's been really, really good. For 9,600, that's a tough price for me to get to, but to pay up to be contrarian, I think it's a fine spot. I'm not targeting Pittsburgh bats against him. Musgrove has been pretty good as well, and he's probably the guy I'm more likely to use. He's 7,500. Pretty good strikeout matchup against the Dodgers. I mean, no problems using him. Two really, really good starts for him to start off his season, so that's encouraging. If I was playing LA bat against Musgrove, it would probably be Yasmani Grandal for 4,200, but that's really about it. Musgrove is a guy that I think I really like in that mid-tier. Tampa Bay and Washington, Nathan Eovaldi against Max Scherzer. Eovaldi had a solid first start, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts. I think he had a no-hitter in that game before getting taken out. I mean, it's great to see him start after coming back from surgery. Great to see him have a pretty decent start, but I don't think I'm using him here against the Nationals. I like Harper and Soto against him. Some of the lefties. I'm not exactly sure what Eovaldi we're going to be seeing, but if he has another start here that's impressive, then he's going to be a guy we're going to have to look at for slates in the future. Scherzer is the best pitcher on the night in my model. Probably going to be the best pitcher on most people's models. He's 13-3, so the question is, can you afford him? That's pretty much always the question with Scherzer. I'm almost always looking to play him. I mean, he's going to get 6-7 righties maybe in this lineup. Like, he's just insane, so nothing bad to say about Scherzer. It's just a price that is tough to pay. I'm going to have some exposure, especially if I have 150 lineups to play with, and I would suggest you do the same. Yankees and Blue Jays, we've got CC Sabathia against Marco Estrada. Yankees come in this game with a huge 5.6 total as of now, maybe even goes higher. We'll talk about Sabathia first, get him out of the way. I don't think I'm using him. Again, he's going to get 8 righties probably for the Blue Jays. He's really, really good against lefties, not as good against righties, and I usually don't target against him. He's just one of those guys, like a couple of other ones on this slate, like the Kyle Hendricks type, where just gives up a lot of soft contact, and I'm not really one to target against those guys with regularity. Donaldson, I think, is... not Donaldson. Why do I keep saying Donaldson? Solarte is actually a guy that I have some interest in. Just dual position eligibility. He's 3,900, and CC does give up more power to righties than lefties. I try to avoid using lefties against Sabathia. So Marco Estrada just gives up way too many fly balls to righties. And the Yankees are going to be a popular stack, especially the big 3, Judge, Stanton, Sanchez. But I really can't argue against them. Like 5.6 total. Wind blowing in, but I don't know if the roof is going to be closed in Toronto. So maybe if they open the roof and it's only 61 degrees with the wind blowing in, maybe that takes a little bit of the steam off the Yankees. But they're one of the best stacks on the night. Don't really need to talk about them too much. It's really 1 through 9 for them against Marco Estrada. Colorado and Cincinnati. Kyle Freeland going up against Anthony Descalfani. Freeland is 8,100. He's one of those guys in the Kyle Hendricks territory for me where, outside of Coors at least, he's never really a guy that I want to target against heavily. Just seems to keep the ball on the yard, create a lot of ground balls, and just is generally frustrating for DFS when you stack against him, even sometimes at Coors. That being said, I think that Eugenio Suarez, 5,100, anytime he's against a lefty now, he's pretty much in play for me until some of these numbers start to go down for him. Like, truly one of the best hitters against lefties in the MLB. So, just been ridiculous. He's someone I'm always looking to use. Duvall's fine for 3,400 as well, but not full stacking the Reds here, I don't think. Descalfani, I don't know if he's even confirmed for this game, so maybe I'll just skip over him, and we'll see who the Reds actually end up starting, because right now I'm not really sure. It looks like he's going to be activated and may start this game. So more on Descalfani tomorrow and the Colorado Bats. We'll move on for now. Milwaukee and Cleveland. Junior Guerra going up against Corey Kluber. Guerra's done a really good job at missing bats lately, and he's probably someone that I'm going to be looking into over the next few times he starts. But I'm not going to him against the Indians here. They're just way too good against righty pitchers. They're just way too good in general. I probably shouldn't target pitchers against them. And I'm not doing it here on a 14-game slate. So the top three in Cleveland, Lindor, Brantley, Ramirez, they're just really tough for a right-handed pitcher. So those are going to be the guys that I mostly want to stack, but I get going to Encarnacion or Yan Gomes to get a 4 or 5-man stack, or even Yonder Alonso for 4,200. Kluber going for the Indians. He's at home here, and his last couple starts, he's sort of looked like the Kluber of old. The swinging strike rate is way up. The whiffs are up over the last couple starts, and then the Brewers are somewhat righty heavy. It looks like they've got 5 in the projected lineup right now. That could obviously change, but Kluber is a fantastic play. If I'm paying up, I think I'm going to try to get up to max for 700 more than Kluber, but if someone said that they prefer Kluber with the savings, I wouldn't hate you for it. So I'm not targeting against Kluber. I don't think that's a hot take, so we'll move on here. Baltimore and New York Mets. Alex Cobb going up against Jason Vargas. Cobb, one of my favorite pitchers to pick on. Lefties have a 521 WOBA against him this year, and the Mets are striking out the least against right-handed pitching over the last month. So they're going to put the ball in play. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. Despite going 7 innings in his last start, Cobb had a 1% swinging strike rate. So these Mets lefties, they're going to put the ball in play. Yeah, the Mets may not be the greatest team in the world, but Nimmo, Cabrera, Conforto, and Bruce can all hit righties very well. And then even down to Adrian Gonzalez, I like for 3,600. And I don't think this is going to be a super popular stack just because, you know, their pricing is okay. You're not getting a great discount on any of these guys, but yeah, I mean, I really, really like the Mets. I really love targeting against Cobb. Vargas is a guy that's missed a decent amount of bats. He's actually someone I'm looking at playing for 5,000. It's scary with the possibility of seeing 9 righties for the Orioles, but at home, he's had a couple. I know he's had at least one really good start and a few not so good. So for 5K, I'm really looking for value, and it's it's hard to find some on this slate. So Vargas is a guy I'm at least looking at for a punt pitcher. The righties are fine for the Orioles. I think Machado is the main guy I'm targeting, but they're also really cheap. So I wonder if the Orioles are going to be sort of a popular stack if people pay up for Max or Kluber and any of the top tier pitchers. Detroit and Boston. Artie Lewicki going up against Steven Wright. This one is confusing to me. It looks like a bullpen game for maybe both teams. I don't know much about Steven Wright, but we'll talk about him more on the MLB strategy video tomorrow. We will also talk more about Artie Lewicki and the Detroit bullpen. I know they have a bottom 5 xFIP in the MLB, so Boston bats look like the play in this one. Benintendi, Bogarts, JD Martinez, Moreland. No Mookie Betts, he's on the DL, but all the way down through Devers, I think that this Boston stack will be up there as one of the higher owned stacks of the night. 5.7 run total, just massive. And they're at home here. A little bit cooler on the East Coast, it looks like. This one's only 62 degrees. So not the most optimal hitting weather, but still, against the Detroit bullpen, these Boston bats are more than in play. Oakland and Texas, Sean Manaea going up against Matt Moore. At this price for Manaea, 7,700, I think I have to consider him, especially when there are going to be a few lefties in the Rangers lineup. Who knows if Gallo's going to be in there, but Chu, Mazzara, Odor, Guzman. If he's going to be low owned, I have a bunch of interest in Manaea. It is really dangerous anytime you play pitcher in Texas when it's 90 degrees. Like, I don't know that I love the idea of doing that. Manaea's velocity is okay from what I looked at least over his last few starts. But he does concern me in general in this matchup. Still, I think there's a bunch of strikeout upside. The Rangers strike out as much as anyone against left-handed pitching this year. And if you look at their individual rates, a bunch of guys near 30% or even higher in the case of Joey Gallo and Chirinos. So it is a boomer bust spot for Manaea, but for 7,700, I'm definitely going to take some shots there. I think if I'm targeting against him, it's with Adrian Beltre, and then maybe Chirinos for 3,000 on DK. The Oakland bats are what I really love in this game, and all of them are in play against Matt Moore. He can miss bats at times in his last few starts. I think he has over 10% swinging strike rate in his last 3 or 4 starts. But if he's off even a little bit, he's going to get crushed, especially in this weather, especially against a team with power like Oakland. My favorites here are actually Chad Pinder, assuming he's in the top of the lineup, and then Matt Chapman. But Chris Davis and even Olsen, Matt Moore gives up a bunch of lefty power too. So I'm not leaving off Olsen, at least not intentionally. And then Jed Lowry, Semien leading off. These top 6 or even top 7 Oakland A's are one of my favorite stacks of the night. So I'm going to have a bunch of different, or I'm going to stack them a bunch of different ways. So I'm excited for this Oakland game. Hope they can give Manaea some run support and he can cruise and pitch some low stress innings. Philadelphia and Chicago. The Cubs, that is. Eflin's been pretty shut down. Zach Eflin going up against Hendricks. Eflin's been pretty shut down against righties this year. So I'm not on a full Cubs stack, but I like Hayward, I like Rizzo, and Schwarber. They're just balanced in the lineup. Hayward's been much, much better, so I have to give him credit for that. For 3,200, if he's batting second, I have some interest in that. But Eflin's actually a guy I've come to respect, at least what he's done so far this year. So no full Cubs stack for me as much as I'd like to. And then Hendricks, 8,300. I don't really play him much unless he's priced obviously too low or he's just got too good of a matchup or the slate is weird, 14-game slate. I'm not going to play Kyle Hendricks too often. I mean, he's pretty safe, I think, against the Phillies, but that's about all the good I can say for him. Other than that, he's just sort of an average DFS pitcher. Let's see. Seattle and Houston. James Paxton against Dallas Keuchel. This one's going to be mostly an avoid for me, at least at this point. Paxton and Houston bats is probably going to be an avoid. Paxton's been awesome, but the Astros, as we've talked about on previous night shifts and previous strategy videos, they've just been awesome against lefties as well. So with 14 games, I think it makes sense to just sort of write this one off. Maybe some one-offs if you like them, but right now I don't see much that I'm liking. Keuchel, same thing. Someone I'm not looking to target against. There's a bunch of these guys. Freeland, Keuchel, Hendricks, Sabathia. Just not guys that I love picking on. I don't really love a ton of stacks tonight now that I'm talking through this. Marlins and Cardinals. Jose Urena against Carlos Martinez. The lefty bats against Urena are something that I'm always going to be looking at. So I like Fowler. I like Matt Carpenter leading off for under 4,000. I think that's a really solid play on DraftKings. 3,900 for Carpenter. Fowler's been hitting the ball very hard according to his average exit velocity over the last couple weeks. So I like that for his sake as well. And then he's only 3,300. So some cheap Cardinals lefties that are going to be near the top of the list for value plays for me. Martinez is making his first start in almost a month. His last start was May 8th. He went only 4 innings in his last start 5 days ago. It was 63 pitches in total. So, it takes some time to get these guys stretched out, and I would doubt he goes more than like 80, maybe 85 pitches, unless there's something I'm not aware of. So for 11,000, it's really hard for me to get to Carlos Martinez when I'd just rather try to find the extra salary to get up to Scherzer or Kluber at the very least. So that's sort of where I'm at on Carlos Martinez. Kansas City and LA, the Angels. Brad Keller against Andrew Heaney. Keller's not going to go very long. He was decent in his first start against the Twins, but he's fine himself, but the Royals bullpen is not. The Royals have one of the worst bullpens in the MLB. So the Angels are going to be another chalky stack, and they're not even that expensive. So Trout is 6,000, and Trout's Trout. You could play him pretty much any slate, but you've got Kinsler for 3,500, Pujols for 3,500, Upton 4,200, Simmons 4,000, Kozar 3,500, Valbuena 3,400. And I really like all those guys. I'm not the biggest Pujols guy, but in an Angels stack, I think that I'll take some shots on him there. I really like Valbuena. I really like Andrelton Simmons, and of course Mike Trout. If you've heard of him, you probably have. Just one of the best players in the MLB, probably the best player in the MLB, and so I don't know why I'm telling you that Mike Trout is one of the best players in the MLB. If you've heard of the MLB, you probably know that. So, Angels, awesome stack, 5 runs, significantly lower total than the Yankees and the A's and the Red Sox. So maybe they come in lower owned than those guys, but I really like the Angels against Keller and, more importantly, the Royals bullpen. Heaney for the Angels, if he was cheaper, he would be a guy that I would be okay using, but for 8,600 and not very much strikeout upside, the Royals are just a terrible strikeout matchup. Whatever you think of the Royals, they have some power bats that I actually like using here, Soler and Salvador Perez, Whit Merrifield, so 2, 3, 4. They're priced in a point where I don't think people will use them, but whenever they face a lefty, those guys are going to be on my radar. Atlanta and San Diego, Sean Newcomb for 9,200 against Jordan Lyles. Newcomb's been really solid against righties. 25% K rate, 1.21 whip, 26.1% hard hit rate, 50% ground ball rate, and now he gets to be in a huge park against a bad Padres team that strikes out a ton against lefties. Yes, there are for sure landmines here for Newcomb, and there's some power in this Padres lineup, but I don't know. I mean, Newcomb just seems like he makes a ton of sense for 9,200 in Petco against a team that's going to strike out a bunch. And then you can't even really leverage against Newcomb. Villanueva's 4,400, Renfroe 4,200. Perella's fine for 3,200, but you don't really need to have a leverage stack, even if Newcomb's going to be chalk on a 14-game slate. And I don't think Newcomb's even going to be chalk on a 14-game slate. Very rarely do we see a pitcher that's in this mid-tier that's ends up being super, super chalky on this big of a slate. Lyles, 6,500. It's a really tough matchup against the Braves because they have so few strikeouts. And they've got power and speed, but he's going to be a guy I think I'd at least consider. It's a low run total for the Braves, under 4 right now. Lyles has been all right. I'm not crazy about him by any means, but it's just a price thing. I can't have all my cheap pitching exposure go to Jason Vargas, so I guess Lyles is a guy that I'll have to consider if I want to keep him in my player pool or not. But as you can tell, I'm not all that excited about him. I like Freeman and Albies and Markakis, and those guys, I mean, Inciarte off the top even. So maybe those guys are enough for me to get off of Lyles by the time we get to lock. Arizona and San Francisco. Patrick Corbin against Madison Bumgarner. Couple lefties going here. Corbin's too expensive for the matchup. The Giants have, in my opinion, I should say, the Giants have been great against lefties over the last month or so. 131 WRC plus, their top 3 in on-base percentage. So Corbin's not really someone I want to play for 9,900. And then Bumgarner going for the season debut. But actually, Arizona has been one of the best teams against left-handed pitching in that same stretch as the Giants are. Huge park, obviously. We talked about them on Monday, how good the Diamondbacks have been against lefties, but I don't think I'm playing either pitcher here. Bumgarner threw 74 pitches in his last AAA start, so maybe 90 pitches is probably his limit if things go well. And I don't even know that they'll go well. I like Goldschmidt a lot for Arizona. For San Francisco, I think that 2, 3, 4, Posey, McCutchen, and Longoria, all guys that I will target, at least sprinkle in. I don't know that I have to stack against Corbin, but he's not been the same guy as he was the first 7 or 8 starts when he was just money every start. Certainly some regression here for Corbin. So I like some Giants bats. All right, that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope this got you started for your research for Tuesday. Huge slate, going to be some huge tournaments on DraftKings. So check out the MLB strategy video. Check out the live before lock at 6 Eastern with me and Chris. And then we will have rankings and spotlight pitchers and ownership projections and spotlight hitters and stacks and everything you could think of. So go to osmo.com. Make sure to check back on our site when all of our content comes out. And good luck, guys.